Good morning and a warm welcome to the Development Control Committee meeting today, the 2nd of September 2026. Before we begin the formal meeting, could I please ask that all phones are on silent, in flight mode or indeed switched off. The meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, so if any member of the public attending the meeting objects to being filmed, please advise us immediately and we will ensure that they are not included in the filming. Although I stress the public gallery will not feature in the live stream and the public speakers will only be filmed from behind where they're seated and their faces will not be visible. So as a matter of courtesy, I should just ask, I don't think there will be anyone objecting, just ask as any members of the public object to being filmed. That's addressed to both of you. I'm not sure it's necessary, but we are in this conference chamber and we are doing cue to speak. So you just press your microphone button and you'll get into the queue and then I'll call you when we get there. And for members only, there is a Q&A session on the National Scheme of Delegation at the end of the morning session. So thank you. Right, turning to the actual formal agenda, can I have apologies for absence, please, Claire?
Chair, that's fine. Chair, you have apologies from Councillor Rachel Hood.
Thank you very much indeed. And can I see an indication of substitutes? Councillor Lynch.
Substituting for Rachel Hood.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. I could have called you Susan then, I would have. Yeah.
I don't know if it's just me, but I'm really a bit echoey.
Oh, is it?
Is it just me? Ignore me.
That's not easy, Carol. That's not easy. Okay, we move our attention now to the minutes of the meeting of the 5th of August. Are there any comments or corrections? No, I couldn't see any either. So can I have a proposer for the minutes, the unamended minutes for the 5th of August, please? Councillor London. And could I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor David Smith. Thank you. So we have a proposer for the minutes of the 5th of August, unamended by Councillor London and seconded by Councillor David Smith. Could I see a show of hands in favour of those minutes, please?
Thank you. Minutes are accepted.
Thank you, Claire. Right, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest, other registerable or non-registerable interest which they have in any item of business on the agenda, and that should be no later than when that item is reached and when appropriate to leave the meeting prior to discussion and voting on the item. Are there any members wishing to declare an interest at this point? Okay. Well, we've got swiftly on then to the agenda item number 5, which is the application for Hatchfield Farm in Newmarket. And I'll invite Charlotte to make the presentation. Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you, Chair. The application before us today seeks approval of the reserved matters, which is appearance, landscaping, layout and scale for 3 commercial buildings at Hatchfield Farm in Newmarket. I will go through some brief updates to the application. I was then going to briefly talk you through what we're considering today, what our key material considerations are before I go into the main presentations. So since publication of the report, we have received an additional representation from a local trainer based on Snailwell Road. The comments submitted build on his original comments, which talk about traffic generation and impact on the horse racing industry. An email has also been received from Andy Drummond in his capacity as local resident. This was circulated to members yesterday and considers issues such as HGV movements, drainage, scale, impact on the horse racing industry and the safety of the layout. In addition, amended landscape plans have been received, and those have addressed the last comment raised by West Suffolk's landscape architect, who has now formally confirmed that they are content with the landscaping scheme and offer it their support. Suffolk County Council's lead local flood authority have also formally confirmed that the drainage details provided are sufficient, and they are also happy in this regard. Now, I know members here are generally fairly experienced, and we have outline applications and reserved matters every so often, but I just wanted to very briefly talk you through what we're considering today. So, a reserved matters application follows approval of an outline application, and in this case, the outline was approved for the development by this committee last April. Matters that were reserved are appearance, layout, scale and landscaping, with this outline application approving the principle of development and the means of access to the site. So I've put a brief description on the screen there of those reserved matters, and this comes from the development procedure order. They are generally as they read. So appearance is the aspects of a building within the development which gives its visual impression. So the place that is made by those buildings, so including their external built form, architecture, materials, lighting, colour. So layout, the way in which buildings, routes and open spaces within the development are proposed, situated and orientated in relation to each other and spaces around. Scale is the height, width and length of the buildings proposed in relation to their surroundings. And then landscaping is the treatment of the land for enhancing and protecting the amenities of the site. So generally this is fences, walls, other means of enclosure, trees, hedges, shrubs, any banks or terraces, gardens, which in this case we don't have, but any other amenity features. So just as a quick update, that's what we're looking at. And then in terms of material considerations, so we obviously have the National Planning Policy Framework. This was updated on the 17th of August, so a couple of weeks ago. It's something we're all getting to grips with, but I will briefly touch on that at the end of my presentation. So then we have the West Suffolk Development Plan. So that includes the site allocations. We have a site allocation AP19 for Hatchfield Farm. The development plan also includes the Newmarket Neighbourhood Plan. Also, as a material consideration, we have the Hatchfield Farm Master Plan, which considered the employment site and the residential site and was adopted by the Council in 2019. So in addition to those, we have the outline application, which at condition 3 included a condition saying the development must be carried out in broad accordance with these following parameter plans. So those are listed there, and I will talk you through those parameter plans as we look at the development proposed today. So onto the site itself. I'm hoping that members will be fairly familiar with the site. We've talked about it several times over the years, but we are on the northern edge of Newmarket, where this blue star is. This is Fordham Road that travels up towards Exning to the north. We have the A14, which abuts the site to the north here in that green line. Adjacent to the site, we've got Studlands Park residential area. We've also got a commercial and employment site. We've got a retail park and the Tesco superstore. So looking at the image on the left, this is the site itself. So the site we're looking at is within the red line. The site to the south in that blue there, that is the residential site, which was approved for 400 houses, and this is currently under construction. So the site allocation policy included this whole site. So it included the employment area that we're looking at, 5 hectares, and it included this residential site. It also included space for a primary school in this area here, and we had supplementary applications which included further areas of public open space and woodland down in this corner. So the site allocation policy required 2 vehicular accesses to be provided to this wider site, and these are now both in situ. So we have an access here. There's a new roundabout which provides access directly into the residential site, and we also have an access point here which goes into the site, serving both the employment area and the residential area. Both of those accesses have permission, are fully installed, and this access is approved to serve the employment site we're looking at today. Within the outline application for the wider site, there were also a number of off-site highway improvements that were secured and are also now on-site and completed. So this included a 3-metre wide foot and cycle path, which runs from this site down further along Fordham Road, meets up with the existing path. That also includes a crossing point of Fordham Road about here, which connects to a bus stop. We have improvements to A14 junction, which is just here. That's signalised now, both the on-ramp and the off-ramp, as well as additional lanes to give more capacity to those junctions. Further down into town, if I show you on the wider map, we have a new Pegasus crossing, which allows pedestrians and horses to cross at the junction with Fordham Road and Rays Lane. Rays Lane is the main east-west equine movement corridor through the town. So that was a really important crossing. And again, that has been completed. So if I turn now to some details of the site. So this is the proposed layout that we have in front of us. And this does match the indicative layout that was given to us at the outline stage. At that point, the indicative plan didn't carry any weight, but it merely gave us an indication of one way that the site could be developed. But that isn't a new plan to us. That is one that we've already seen. On the right-hand side is the development area parameter plan. So the area in blue shows us the site that we expected to be developed. And as you can see, our layout plan accords with that. So this is the access we have going in here. You can see that central roundabout, which is also in, as is the spur road that goes into the site. And this sort of secondary access point here, which provides access for service vehicles to the rear of the site. And you can see there's 3 service yards there. So the 3 buildings provide a total of 8,990 square metres of commercial space. They are proposed, their uses were proposed and approved within the outline. And this is Unit 3 here, which is proposed for a B8 storage and distribution use, which is under the 9,000 square metres, which we controlled at the outline stage for that use class. The other 2 units, Units 1 and 2, have a Class EG or B2 use class, and that covers offices, light industrial and general industrial. In terms of car parking, we have 408 parking spaces proposed within the site, and that accords with the Suffolk County Council adopted parking standards. We already have footways and cycleways that connect into the site along the pavement, and we've got additional paths through this landscaped area to the front. and we've got safe means of circulation within the site to allow easy access for employees and visitors. So moving on, this is the proposed landscaping plan. You can see on the right, this is the landscape parameter plan. So again, the green there indicates land that would be reserved for landscaping. And if we compare that to the plan that we have in front of us, officers are happy that that accords with that plan. We can see that there is new planting proposed within the site, as well as boosting the landscaping on that boundary to the west. I did mention at the beginning of my report that there had been some last-minute changes to landscaping, and that was to ensure the species used were climate resilient, following comments by our landscape architect. Members will have noted in my report that I have identified a degree of conflict with the aspirations of the master plan, which suggested a woodland belt on that southern boundary. But given the additional degree of separation that we have between this boundary and the buildings themselves, which is much larger than what was envisioned at the outline stage, as well as the use of good quality landscaping and climate resilient species, officers are satisfied that the landscaping is acceptable. So this plan shows us the proposed site section. So this is the view from the access road looking north, and you can see those three buildings here. The plan at the bottom of the screen is the site section parameter plan. There's no escaping that the buildings are large, and the parameter plan allowed a maximum height of 17.5 metres, and the buildings we have in front of us today accord with that parameter plan. The elevations, this is Unit 1. They are large employment buildings, but officers feel that they are well designed. We've got a row of ribbon windows here, which could accommodate the potential for mezzanine floors. We've got glazing at the bottom with a sort of a designed porch area here, which will be more apparent when I show you some visuals in a moment. So Unit 2, again, very similar. You've got the frontage at the bottom here with those areas of glazing, the rear with those service doors at the back. And then Unit 3 there, which was the building proposed for the storage and distribution use. So the proposed roof plan for you, that just shows the solar panels proposed on the roof. The outline application included a condition requiring the building to meet BREEAM Excellence standard, and the pre-application assessment gave the development a 74.96% as a score. To meet excellent, it has to achieve over 70%. And the applicant is confident that they can still achieve that with that buffer. And the outline condition required a post-completion assessment to be submitted to the council to confirm that has been achieved. So some visuals of the site for you to look at. So you can see this is an aerial view taken. We've got Fordham Road to the bottom here, A14 behind that tree belt, and we've got those buildings there. And then a couple of views from within the site. So you can see those entrance canopies. We've got trees within the car park to provide some shading and enhance the appearance. And we've got various safe circulation routes within the site. There's a couple of aerial plans here. They are not up to date because we have some further construction down in the residential site, but they provide quite a useful image showing the location of the site and its setting. So again, you can see the A14 at the back behind that tree belt. You've got the residential area of Studlands Park here. The image to the right shows you those existing commercial buildings. That is Tesco's there. The plan on the left also shows you the residential site that's being developed. So we've got these basins here, which are now planted and becoming established. So it shows you where the closest residential buildings will be. So we've got residential uses proposed in this area here, where my pointer is, to give you an idea of that separation between the units and those. It's between about 80 and 100 metres to the closest dwellings there. We also have existing dwellings, Studlands Park, Nimbus Way here. And you will note that there is there are layers of landscaping here with an existing tree belt in both of these locations, with further trees being planted. And this is actually a winter view, and you can see that there is still a reasonable buffer there. So some additional photographs of the site. So this shows us the approach to the site coming from the south. So the site is in the background there in front of that row of trees. You can see the image on the right. These are the new traffic lights that have gone in that serve this entrance. And you can see the improvements leading on to the A14 junction. And these are just a couple of views from within the site itself. So if we look at the image on the left, the site is on the right-hand side. And you can see this access road is already in, with both right and left turns there. This image on the right is the opposite side of the road to the site. So this is the residential site we have here. You can see we've already got trees becoming established, and we've got a dedicated cycle and footpath here, which is separated from the main highway. On to a quick summary of our consultation responses. Suffolk County Council Highway Authority have not raised any objection. They have recommended conditions regarding car and cycle parking, which have already been secured within the outline, and a HGV delivery management plan. Members will note that this hasn't been imposed on the list of conditions. Officers were satisfied that that was considered at the outline stage and didn't now feel that that was a reasonable condition, possibly something we'll come on to further in the debate. We also have formal confirmation now from the Lead Local Flood Authority that they're satisfied, as is the West Suffolk landscape architect, ecologist and economic development team, who support additional commercial growth within Newmarket. The Police Design Out Crime Officer has requested a condition regarding crime reduction and security management. This was raised as they felt that the large parking area at the front had the potential to accommodate antisocial behaviour. They've suggested various ways that that could be overcome, things like entrance bollards, barriers, signage directing people to different entrance points, and officers are satisfied that that can be dealt with as a condition. And just moving on to the representations that we've received, the Newmarket Town Council have objected to the scheme. Their main concerns relate to impact on traffic, HGV traffic, their aspirations for the site, and concerns regarding noise and light pollution. In addition to that, including the late representations I'd mentioned earlier, we've received a total of 8 representations. These are from local residents, including Tattersalls, the Newmarket Trainers Group, MP Nick Timothy, and Suffolk County Councillor, Councillor Whittle. and their concerns are similar to those of the Town Council. So concerns about the increase in traffic, particularly using the town centre, including HGV movement, the impact this will have on the horse racing industry. There is a suggestion for conditions requiring HGVs to turn left out of the site, so going straight onto the A14, a restriction on entering Newmarket between certain hours of the day, as well as conditions to consider monitoring and enforcement mechanisms and pre- and post-development studies. There are other concerns relating to the size and scale of the development, the use of land, particularly for the B8 storage and distribution use, conflict with adopted policies, drainage, and the safety of the internal layout of the site. Officers are content that those concerns have been fully considered within the application. Indeed, since publication of the report, we've had the remaining consultees confirm their support, and officers are satisfied that the scheme you have in front of you accords with the adopted development plan, the site allocation, and the other material considerations that I mentioned earlier. I did mention that the MPPF had been updated a couple of weeks ago. So the new development plan includes national policies that will need to be considered by officers when determining applications, as well as our own local policies. So this is a list of the key national policies that would apply to this site. Officers at West Suffolk have analysed these national development policies and compared them to our own local policies, and are content that it doesn't introduce any new material considerations that would change our planning balance and planning consideration here. So on that basis, the recommendation remains as it is. So, as I said, officers are satisfied that it accords with the adopted development plan, the allocation, and is in broad accordance with the master plan and the parameter plans already approved by this committee last year. And given the newness of the MPPF, I've just added that last sentence, which states that the development proposals that accord with an up-to-date development plan should be approved without delay. And on that basis, I recommend the application for approval with the conditions in your papers from pages 42 onwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Charlotte. We've now got our registered speakers, and I shall list them as follows. On behalf of Newmarket Town Council and in her capacity as the Chair of Development and Planning Committee, Councillor Rachel Hood has submitted a statement, and that will be read out by Helen. We've got Ward Councillor, Councillor Jan Jarvis. We've got Suffolk County Councillor, Councillor Adrian Whittle, and the applicant, Richard G. Welcome to you all. So could we start with the statement, please, from Councillor Rachel Hood?
Newmarket Town Council continues to strongly object to this application. Although outline planning permission has been granted, circumstances have changed. Protections for the horse racing industry have been strengthened, and it is not accurate to say that all issues have already been settled. This proposal is not the mixed employment scheme of small and medium light industrial units that Newmarket needs. It is now clear that the application includes a large and inappropriate distribution centre directly beside residents' homes. We are deeply concerned that this could repeat the experience of Colina in Haverhill, where residents have suffered constant disruption from 24-hour HGV movements, noise, vibration, refrigeration units and light pollution that has damaged residents' well-being and their quiet enjoyment of their homes. This is not acceptable. We are also extremely disappointed that Lord Derby's Sansovino Developments Limited submitted this application with no consultation with Newmarket Town Council and no consultation with the planning officer. Charlotte herself has expressed surprise and disappointment, and her report acknowledges that the buildings are undoubtedly large. The scale, layout, appearance and internal access arrangements are unacceptable. The buildings are too large, too high and too close to homes. The committee has received serious and carefully considered objections from residents, businesses and local organisations. These concerns deserve full weight. The proposal conflicts with enhanced horse racing protections, the Newmarket Neighbourhood Plan and the historic and economic importance of Newmarket. In our view, this is not sustainable development. Traffic is already frequently gridlocked. There has been no up-to-date traffic survey taking account of the 450 currently unoccupied homes at Hatchfield and the former St Felix site, nor of how HGVs will move within the development itself. This raises serious risks for residents, children travelling to the 2 Fordham Road schools and horses and riders. We ask the committee to reject this application. If it is not rejected, it should at least be deferred for a proper traffic and health and safety assessment. If approval is considered, Newmarket Town Council requires strict conditions. HGVs must access and leave via the A14 only. The distribution centre absolutely must be moved closer to the A14 and made lower and less overbearing. Operating hours must be strictly limited, with industrial vehicle use Monday to Friday 8 a.m. to 5 p.m, Saturday 9 a.m. to 1 p.m, and no Sunday or bank holiday working. And all conditions must be rigorously enforced. Finally, Newmarket Town Council wholeheartedly supports the representations of Ward Member Councillor Jarvis and Suffolk County Councillor Adrian Whittle. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Helen. So, Councillor Jarvis, you've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairs and members, I'm here as the West Suffolk Councillor for Newmarket North, and I call this application in because concerns of this scale should be examined publicly. Now, no member determining this application lives in the ward. I do, so I bring you some lived-in experience. Now, Newmarket is under tremendous pressure already from traffic, and the situation is rapidly deteriorating. We have a new housing at the poorly conceived St Felix site and hundreds of houses at Hatchfield, people yet to move in, so this hasn't been tested against the pressures we already have. We cannot keep throwing more development at Newmarket without looking at the big picture. Our roads, public transport, road safety and the infrastructure needed to sustain both the town and the horse racing industry. Now, frankly, adding more vehicles to Fordham Road makes little strategic sense. It's already under pressure and already shared with horses and riders. So why would we deliberately add more HGVs to a road where the conflict already exists? So the prudent solution is clear. HGVs should be routed directly towards the A14 and kept out of Newmarket. Now, this is what Newmarket is asking for. Newmarket Town Council has unanimously objected. Our MP has objected. Councillors, trainers, Tattersalls and the horse racing industry have all raised serious concerns. Now, West Suffolk's own local plan says horse racing is integrated into the fabric of Newmarket and that the planning and highways authorities will work with the industry to promote the safety of horses and riders. It also says development likely to have a material adverse impact on an existing horse racing operation through traffic or horse movements will only be permitted in exceptional circumstances where the benefits significantly outweigh the harm. Those are exceptional protections because this is an exceptional industry. They demand exceptional care from this committee. If we say these things and don't act on them, we risk debasing our commitments and we damage our integrity. The horse racing industry is worth more than £250 million a year locally. What we must not do is create further dangers for horses and riders because what we really cannot afford is a tragedy. This risks becoming another distant decision made without properly weighing up the real-world impact on Newmarket itself. And let us not reinforce that tired perception or trope that Newmarket is left behind by its local authorities and not listened to. I ask you to defer this application until the lawful position is clarified and enforceable protections are identified to keep HGVs out of Newmarket. If those protections cannot be secured, these proposals should not be approved. I'm asking for real diligence. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Jan. Now it's the Suffolk County Councillor, Councillor Adrian Whittle, please. You've got 3 minutes, Adrian.
Chair, members of the committee, The officer's report is clear and professional. I only want to comment on paragraphs 62 and 78 about whether you can add a condition on HGV movements. Paragraph 62 says that the overall traffic impact is already settled. Paragraph 78 says you cannot use reserve matters as a second chance to add conditions that should have been put on at outline stage. I respectfully disagree that this closes the door completely. The law allows conditions at reserved matters if they think they directly link to the details that you are now deciding: the layout, access inside the site, and how vehicles move around. Those conditions must be necessary, relevant, enforceable, precise, and reasonable. They are. This application includes storage and distribution buildings. They will bring HGVs. Controlling when and how those HGVs enter and leave the site is about the layout and the internal access that you are deciding today. It does not reopen the traffic numbers that have already been agreed at outline. There is a clear example already in Suffolk. At Gateway 14, Miggs Suffolk Council put a condition on HGV routing and management at reserved matters stage. The reason was to reduce the effects of HGV traffic in sensitive areas. That decision was supported by the same legal team that advises West Suffolk Council. If it is acceptable there, it can indeed be acceptable here too. Suffolk Highways has already want a deliveries management plan for this site for the very same reason. West Suffolk's own 2024 Transport Mitigation Report, see page 208, Newmarket Horse Safety Zone, also recognises that HGVs need careful management around Newmarket. Now is the time to prove that you are following this council's own recommendations. I speak for the racehorses, their riders and the people of Newmarket. About 2,000 horses cross our roads every morning between 5 a.m. and 1 p.m. The noise, the size of HGVs can cause dangerous reactions in horses capable of blistering speed. We need sensible safeguards. My simple request is that, in line with what has already been done in Suffolk, no HGV turns left onto Fordham Road between 5 a.m. and 3 p.m. except for essential access. No HGV movements on the estate on Sundays and public holidays. On Saturdays, HGV access to the estate only between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. Monday to Friday, estate access is between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. No one on this committee would want a fatality caused by a HGV turning left onto Fordham Road. These steps protect horses, riders and the public. They protect an industry that is central to Newmarket.
Adrian.
And they let the development go ahead in safety.
Adrian, sorry to interrupt you. Can you finish up in one sentence?
You have the power today to put a fair and lawful condition in place, and I also ask you to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Right, Richard G., who is the applicant. You've got 3 minutes, Richard.
Thank you. Unsurprisingly, I disagree with all that. This committee granted outline planning permission with all the information in front of it about a year and a half ago. There are no material changes in front of you. There's no additional evidence that can be considered. It was all considered at some considerable length in a local plan review, and then again for this outline planning application which you granted. Therefore, any more conditions are just inappropriate. They cannot be justified. There is no commercial way that we would want to restrict future employers in how they operate their businesses. There is no particular reason to expect larger amounts of vehicle movements than have already been allowed for in the transport assessments that have been done, that have considered 400 houses and everything else. So I cannot do better than your officer has done in her erudite and elegant analysis of the application and the planning law, and suggest you go with her recommendation and approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Richard. Right, members, over to the committee. Councillor Lynch, please.
Could I ask for clarification from the officers on what is allowed or not allowed to be considered? Because there's two opposing views being presented to us. I understand that the exact codes of use are new in this application, so the B8, B2, EG distinctions are all new, and that seems to me like it could materially change the traffic that's routed. I understand there's quite a large difference between a B2 use case and a B8 use case in terms of HGV traffic. I'll leave the rest for now and just ask for clarification first. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. Councillor Ball, please.
Thank you. It does seem to all hinge on these HGVs. Two questions, really. If all the highways things were sorted out at the outline, why were they consulted again? Why was there a need to consult them a second time for this reserved matters? And also, I understand that putting a condition about the way HGVs can leave a commercial premises, it's not the best way, because they would only have control over their own vehicles, that vehicles from other companies, which there would be lots of, you can't control them. Is not the answer to have an actual control on the road about no HGVs and not condition it on the thing, if you see what I mean. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor London, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'd just like to confirm something. In the report you said, you mentioned that the condition was that they would turn left. The requested condition was turn left. I just wanted to confirm, because I think is that they wouldn't turn left. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then I also echo Councillor Lynch's question with regards to the exact legality of what we can and cannot put in here, and I'd like to explore exactly what we can do. And then finally, whilst it is not, I would have really liked to have had an in-depth conversation with the Suffolk County Council roads person, anyone from the team to come in. So I'm just wondering if they were invited to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor London. Councillor David Smith, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just echoing really what Councillor Ball said. I mean, if you ban HGVs from this site, how do you stop the HGVs going to other industrial sites already within Haverhill? Sorry, beg your pardon. Haverhill on the mind all the time.
You're
Newmarket.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not sure. I think it's a good idea, but I'm not sure how that will work in practicality. It's also mentioned that there's objections to the fact there may be a distribution centre. Now, unfortunately, the way the world is these days, if we can insist on buying online and having home deliveries, you need distribution centres. Nobody wants them in their backyard, but I'd rather they were making shorter distances rather than distances from halfway across the country. So to me, that's not an issue with the what the building is going to be. I think it was Councillor Hood made a comment about Haverhill and Kalina. I'm not aware of any serious concerns with the residents with the HGVs leaving and arriving at Kalina. The only issue is lorries parking overnight in the nearby lay-bys, but that's nothing to do with Kalina. So I think that's a bit of a red herring. So I'd like to hear more debate before making up my mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David Smith. No current requests, so I'm going to take the opportunity to... Oh, I beg your pardon. Councillor Chester.
Thank you, Chair. Can the officer just confirm that the size of these proposed units was established at outline and can't be revisited now? Question one. Question two is, to the best of the officer's knowledge, are any horse and rider routes likely to be impacted by this proposal? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chester. And Councillor Neal.
Thank you, Chair. Well, the application in my personal opinion, is in the right location. It's right on the outskirts of Newmarket. 2 light industry, 1 distribution. And the location of the distribution particularly seems to be the crux of the matter here with the HGVs. And off any motorway in the country, you won't drive many miles before you see something similar to this. The ease of access to the A14 makes it most suitable. The A14 M11 connects to London, A14 M6 to the Midlands, A14 A11 to Norwich, A11 direct to Felixstowe Docks, depending on what the businesses are going to be there. There's employment opportunities of all levels of education, and I think that's something that Newmarket should be embracing, and employment opportunities that sit outside of the horse racing industry. I don't see where, because of its location, I don't see where the HGV traffic is going to impact the town centre particularly, or the horse racing industry with the stables and the horses crossing the road more in town, because as I say, this is right on the outskirts. Be interesting to hear the rest of the debate to find out what I'm missing from this, because to me it seems the logical place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neil. Councillor Mildmay White, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The Hatchfield Farm development must have been one of the major topics of conversation in this committee over the last, 8, 9, 10 years probably. It is really time that this was developed and implemented. I think the main difference is the distribution centre, which wasn't really envisaged at the time, but as Councillor Smith says, and as I experience on the Suffolk Business Park, that is the nature of the world. And it brings to mind the sort of clamour that was around telephone masts, when everybody wanted a telephone, but nobody wanted a mast. And now we've got distribution centres, which people don't want, but they all want their deliveries coming as soon as possible. So it is the nature of the game. And if you drive from here to Oxford, what do you see but distribution centres all the way along the roads? So I don't see that Newmarket can be any different. What I'd like to see, Charlotte, is just see the relationship between that distribution centre and the residential, please. I couldn't quite make it clear on the map that you were showing quite how close it was going to be to the residential. But I think it's a long time that this site was developed. And as Councillor Neil says, to my mind, it's absolutely in the right place. It's within spitting distance of the A14. And if you're an HGV driver, I can't understand why you wouldn't use the A14 to access this. The problem with the A14, of course, is the sheer amount of traffic. And when something goes wrong, we all know that traffic comes through Newmarket if there is a blockage on the A14 around Newmarket. So to start banning HGVs would be impossible, because when the A14 is blocked, where do they go but through Newmarket and Studlands and roundabout? So it makes no sense to start banning HGVs. And as I've said before, to my mind, this is the right place for the right industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mildmay White. I've got Councillor Lynch and Councillor Holder in my queue, but I think we've reached the point where we need to get some feedback from Charlotte and from Peter, and then you've retained your space in my queue. Okay, so over to your officers, please.
Thank you, Chair. There's a number of things to go through. Bear with me and I will work through my list. The use classes that we have in front of us today are the same as what was approved at the outline application. That is no different now as to what was approved last year. So the overall floor area, the 3 buildings, one of the buildings as a B8 storage and distribution use, that was what was approved last year. The outline application also approved the 2 other uses in the EG B2 use classes. So that remains as approved already. And Councillor Chester, you queried the scale. Last year, we approved the scale of the buildings. We approved that scale parameter plan. which allowed 3 buildings up to the height that we have now. We had indicative plans last year that were part of our consideration along with those parameter plans, and they match the plans that we have in front of us today. The site allocation allowed these uses, and the local plan inspector was satisfied with those uses. They were in fact satisfied if the entirety of the site was B8, storage and distribution. They didn't impose a restriction on the floor area for that use class. That was something that was done by officers and the committee last year to restrict that to a single building. In terms of traffic generation, accompanying the outline application, we had a transport assessment, and that looked at those 3 different use classes, and it gave you a breakdown of the traffic baseline and the predicted traffic based on those use classes and those size units. So that is what was considered last year by officers and by the Highway Authority. We also, West Suffolk commissioned a transport assessment to support the local plan. So that transport assessment looked at all the site allocations within the district. It focused its separate chapters on different towns. So there was a chapter on Newmarket, which looked at the proposed site allocations. So the large ones in Newmarket are Hatchfield Farm and the Pinewood Stud allocation, also for 400 houses on the road leading down to Exning. And that transport assessment was satisfied with the mitigation measures that had already been approved as part of the wider Hatchfield scheme, and was satisfied with the transport implications from all of those sites. This assessment made some wider suggestions for Newmarket, which perhaps build on some of the comments that Councillor Bull had made. So rather than conditioning things with particular planning applications, it talked about having different horse zones. It talked about wider mitigation for Newmarket as a whole. It wasn't specific enough to restrict vehicle movements into the town or at certain times, but it talked about different zones. It talked about those crossing points which needed to be improved, which needed further mitigation. And so there are those wider improvements that could be taken forward separately to this application. We consulted the Highway Authority on this reserved matters because it's a major application, and so as standard we consult the Highway Authority, and we were seeking their advice on the internals of the site, so that internal circulation. We've got tracking plans which show that HGVs can enter the site and circulate round the site, and we've got the parking numbers which we wanted confirmation that they accord with their standards. The Highway Authority have put us in a fairly difficult position here, given that they didn't object last year and they didn't object initially to this application and have added subsequent comments asking for a HGV delivery plan condition. The use of that condition is something that we've had quite a deal of discussion about internally, and about whether that is something that we can use. There is a feeling that it could potentially be applied to this application now at this reserved matters stage. But before we do that, we really have to consider what we're hoping to achieve through that condition. So if that condition is seeking to prevent vehicles from turning left, so apologies, that was a typo in my report. If the idea is to prevent vehicles from turning left into Newmarket, we have to think about our legal tests of a condition. So each condition has to meet certain tests, and it has to be precise and reasonable and appropriate, necessary to make the development acceptable and enforceable. So if we look first to enforceability, the point's already been made that there are other vehicles that use this section of road, and do we have the resources within our enforcement team to sit on Fordham Road and look at vehicles that are driving down that road, flagging them down and asking them where they've come from and where they're going? I think it's unlikely that we would be able to achieve that enforceability. So that's something I'd like members to think about. I'd also like to think about whether it is necessary and appropriate. We looked at, I'll show you a plan. We looked at the location of the site. It is next to the A14 slip road. So the site is at the top here. I appreciate it's small, but we have a green and a blue line at the top, which shows us the distance from the site to the A14. So if you're going west, it's 640 metres from the site to join the A14 in a westerly direction if you're going to Cambridge and the Midlands. If you chose to go left out of the site and you went down Fordham Road, down the High Street and joined the A14 at a later point, you are choosing to go through 4 roundabouts and 8 sets of traffic lights and travelling 10.3 kilometres. If we look at the other direction, again, we're going east to Bury, to Felixstowe. It's 760 metres from the site onto the A14. Alternatively, you're going down Fordham Road again and up through Kempford to join. So that is 3 roundabouts and 5 sets of traffic lights and 11.4 kilometres. So is it necessary? Is it reasonable for us to add a condition which restricts drivers from taking that route when, in all likelihood, HGV drivers want to go the quickest and the easiest route to get to their destination? So it's those tests that we need to consider when we think about imposing conditions. Moving on to further issues in terms of horse riders being impacted. That was Councillor Chester's query. We rely on the Highway Authority as our statutory consultee. They haven't raised any concerns. We have those transport assessments that I've referred to. In terms of the site itself, the nearest horse racing establishments are further down towards the bottom of Fordham Road where it meets Snailwell Road. There are a number of establishments there. They have a horse crossing in place at that junction with Fordham Road and Snailwell Road where horses cross and where we then have dedicated horse walks. So the transport assessment concludes that those mitigation measures are in place to protect horses and their riders in that location there, and then further down at the Rays Lane crossing. And then the other question, which was about the proximity of the buildings to residential development. I don't unfortunately have a plan which shows both the buildings and the proposed dwellings together. If we look at that aerial view, the buildings are set back. The storage and distribution use is the one that projects further to the south, and that comes up to about this location. And then we've got the residential dwellings which start in this corner here. So that distance was about 80 metres between the building and that residential use. Again, we've got them over here. It's more like 100 metres in that distance between. We will have some intervening landscaping. Perhaps that might be a bit clearer on that plan there again. Hopefully that has covered everything. Highways were aware that this was coming to committee today. I didn't specifically invite them to come because I didn't think it was a matter that we would be considering at length. My apologies.
Now, those members who sought answers to questions, have the answers been given, even though you may not actually agree with them, in all fairness? But can we just move on to the second phase of member questions? I think that the answer to that question is yes. Okay, Councillor Lynch, please.
Thank you. I wanted to respond to Councillor Neal and Councillor Mildmay-White about the proximity to houses as someone who does live in Newmarket, even though not in the ward. There's a lot of houses very close to Fordham Road, which is what the access road that you saw joins onto, that goes to the A14. And I agree that it's a great location. It's very close to the A14 and it will keep most of the HGV traffic out of Newmarket. But there is a lot of residential houses very close to Fordham Road, and Fordham Road does not have busy overnight traffic at the moment. There's no traffic there at night at all. And if there's a 24-hour distribution centre opening up that goes along the stretch of road that's 10 metres to the closest house on Fordham Road, there's a thin line of trees separating a whole string of 20 to 30 houses 10 to 20 metres off Fordham Road. They could be affected overnight by loud HGV traffic, and 80 metres to the new development is not very far in itself to attenuate noise from a 24-hour warehouse distribution centre. It's not a completely segregated site, so a lot of these big warehouse distribution centres of B8 class are a segregated industrial site, not integrated into a housing estate. They're out of town. They have almost completely separated access roads to a main artery road. And I would like, I think, to defer to speak with Highways, see what their actual concern was around and why they have suggested a HGV travel plan, and then bring it back to either officers or committee decision after they've spoken with the applicant.
So are you asking for you to propose a deferral?
Okay, yeah, I'll propose a deferral. Thank you.
Is that seconded, please? Councillor Lynch, that proposal has failed. Okay. Councillor Holder, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank Charlotte for her precise presentation and subsequent explanations about the road system. In a different life, I used to travel up and down through Newmarket and to Cambridge on a regular basis, and quite frankly, I am with the town residents on the horrendous traffic through their town centre, because any glitch on the A14 at the Kentford side, the Stoke-on-Quay side, or even on the A11 south of there means all the HGV traffic has to go through Newmarket, whichever way it wants to go, and it causes complete chaos, which is usually mirrored by the race day traffic as well, I hasten to add. I wasn't at the planning application for Queensbury Lodge. I don't know how I managed to miss that. Must have been on holiday or something. Were the same howls of protest about the traffic entering into Newmarket from that development? That's a question the planning officer perhaps mentioned, because a lot of domestic traffic is going to be trading in and out of that new development, which was granted permission. I had a sense of deja vu, like Councillor Mildmay-White, seen today's presentation because it was a complete revisitation of what we had before. And also those of us who went on the site visit and wandered around this fairly large site before it was started to develop, apart from the roads. And all the things were talked about then, and they went on and on and on. But subsequently, we approved the application. We hear today, through our officer and the applicant, that really nothing much has changed. The proposed warehouses are completely modest compared with the things we see going up today elsewhere. They're quite tiny. I mean, it may be big because they were never there before, but if you look around anywhere, when they're building new warehousing, the business people responsible are building as big as they can nowadays. It's incredible. You know, in my day, a sort of garden shed would be about as much as you could hope for. I'm not making any proposals at the moment. I'm just thinking the traffic situation is bad in Newmarket. We all agree this is not going to help, and we all know that. But how can we stop lorries from all over the country going through Newmarket when they have to, just because of one development north of Newmarket? If you go further north towards Snailwell, Fordham and Selham, they've got the same problem with traffic. So this is nothing new. It's not getting better. It needs perhaps a national approach to it. We hear about the horses all the time entering the road. Maybe it's time to move the horses away from town and into the country which Newmarket is surrounded with. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Holder. Councillor London, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've never been shy about pulling apart applications that I don't think are suitable. I might have made a bit of a reputation from it. However, this one has met BREEAM Excellent, unlike the former depot site in Bury St Edmunds, which I opposed. It is right next to the dual carriageway, unlike the Janix site in Upthorpe, which required a large amount of traffic through single carriageway roads. This site is literally right next to the off-ramp from the A14. It's also not going to generate traffic in the same way as, for example, the development opposite Laureate Academy in Newmarket. And they've actually put in the infrastructure first. It is one of the main things that we keep hearing over and over again, how we want the infrastructure in first. As somebody who literally used the Windmill Hill turning in the A14 junction earlier this morning, I can personally attest that it is significantly better than it used to be. So they've met those criteria. If we want the ease of online shopping, we need sites like this. If we don't want sites like this, we can stop buying things online. And as a Newmarket councillor, I am struggling to think of any site in Newmarket that would be better suited than this one. Do I think that we could fettle it around the edges, make it a little bit better? Absolutely. However, we are often told that we are dealing with the application that is here in front of us. This is not a new application. This is something that has been in the works for so long that it was started by our predecessor council. And from the position that we were in this morning to now, I have no problem in nominating this for approval.
Thank you, Councillor London. Is that seconded, please? Councillor Bull. And you're next to speak anyway, Councillor Bull.
Yes, I was going to propose it anyway, so I'm very happy to second it.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Miller-Jones, please.
Thank you very much. Hi. So my main concerns are about this sort of overnight distribution centre stuff, which I know isn't what we're actually looking at. It's not in those reserved matters, but I noticed there were the points made about the fact that Highways had sort of come back and talked about doing a condition that they hadn't initially mentioned, and it was sort of said that it was too late because, and you explained really nicely about the like when you're doing conditions, you have to look at if it's feasible, if it's reasonable, if it's this and that. My concern is that if this goes ahead and gets approved, And then we come to actually talking about the sort of the noise impact, actually conditioning those hours of operation, that we'll be at a point where we're told, oh, it's not reasonable. A distribution centre needs to operate 24 hours. And I've actually been following some of the backlash that's happened as a result of a warehouse that was approved up north. And it's, you know, the noise at night is a huge issue for residents. The size, which is very slightly bigger than this, but not massively bigger than this, is obviously a huge issue for the people. It is right out, like, it's very close to homes, closer than this, I believe. But there was also something that came up about the fact that HGVs have to test their horn legally before they drive away. They have to test their horn. So these HGVs are required to test their horn before leaving the site, no matter the fact that they're operating at night. And so it's been raised that perhaps if they're not doing that, because they've got a condition on their warehouse, that they're not allowed to use their horns at night, but then that makes it sort of, and so there's an issue of then, is it even legal for them to operate, which I believe has sort of, you know, been raised. But it's just, there's a lot of issues that I think it's all very well saying, oh, well, we're looking at the layout and everything right now. But I would like to clarify whether if we then, you know, get to a later stage when it's going to be unlikely for us to condition that they don't operate 24 hours a day, because that would be a concern for me. I think, you know, residents having their sleep disrupted, that isn't something to take lightly. And this other one I mentioned, it has really brought the council into huge disrepute as a result of just approving this and then the harm that's happened to residents' lives. So I'd be interested to know sort of where we go from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller-Jones. I've got no current requests to speak, so officers, over to you to respond to the points that have been raised.
Thank you, Chair. So our Public Health and Housing team have been consulted on the initial application, the outline and on this one, and they haven't raised any concerns in respect of noise, traffic movements, sort of the disturbance potentially from that. The service yards and the manoeuvring areas are all on the rear of the site. So, is that sharing? Yeah. So, this is the access route for HGVs or service vehicles. So, any kind of manoeuvring, loading, unloading is likely to take place in those service yards, which does have a thick and established tree belt next to it and should absorb some of that noise and disturbance from that activity. There have been comments about the location of it and the location of this type of use near to a residential site. There is a desire nationally for walkable neighbourhoods, and there are aspirations that people can live near their place of work. And this is a perfect example where hopefully some of the 400 houses that live here will be able to walk or cycle to their place of work. It's a site that has been talked about for years, was in the Forest Heath site allocations, was in the most recent one. So I would hope there would be a degree of buyer beware if you're going to buy a house here, that you would appreciate what you were close to. We don't have any hours of use specified. It wouldn't be something we could revisit at a later date because the Public Health and Housing was satisfied, because we don't know who the occupants are going to be and how they will manage their business. That isn't something we have sought to control. I have no idea if lorries have to test their horn. It's not something I've ever heard of. Pete is going to have a go at answering it. Just quickly before we move on to that, in terms of Queensberry Lodge, I haven't been involved in the Queensberry Lodge. I'm not aware that the transport discussions have been as involved as they have been for this site, but it's not something I'm involved with. Over to you.
I'm going to give you an insight into my younger days now, when I had an altercation with a police officer and I got told off. I hadn't been driving my car for very long, and I apparently had beeped my horn, and that was witnessed by a police officer, and I was pulled over. I suspect he was possibly being nice to me, and gave me a verbal warning for using my audible warning signal, which I was not supposed to use unless there was a reason for using that for the safety of others. I remember those words that he gave me. So whilst I don't know whether HGV drivers have other legislation, I don't have an HGV licence, I would be surprised if they are required to leave their place of collection and test their horn, particularly when their vehicles should be roadworthy, and part of being roadworthy would be having a working audible warning signal or horn as we would otherwise know it. I too have seen the Instagram or other social media of the warehouse up north, and I must admit some of the things that are said on there I do know as a planner aren't necessarily correct, so I wouldn't ask you to give any merit to that that advice that social media account has given you.
Okay, we've had the second round of questions and answers. Can I move on to Councillor Neil, who's indicating he wishes to speak? Is that okay with the people who've asked questions? It is. Councillor Neil, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just in reply to some of the comments that have been made since I made my comment, HGVs are currently delivering to Wickes and Tesco's that are going past this site, going past Studland's residential area. If their lorry drivers are bibbing their horns, well, I'm sure the residents are already hearing that anyway. And a lot of within our local plan, we're providing industry, and sometimes I can relate to Mildenhall. Our industrial estate is right in the heart of the town, with the proximity to residents and such like. So to have it, just to reiterate, to have this on the edge of the town is going to have little or no impact at all. And with regards the fear of traffic being diverted through Newmarket, which does happen, I can assure you at Mildenhall, when anything happens at Five Ways roundabout, we endure the same problem, and that's no different to any other town. You know, the horse racing industry is protecting Newmarket to a large extent from growth that all other towns are encountering, and they can't really hide behind that. I think there's employment opportunities that sit outside of the horse racing industry that really need to be welcomed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neil. I've got Councillor Miller-Jones and Councillor Dicker wishing to speak, but just before we go back to the committee, we have a substantive proposal, and I would actually like to test the committee's opinion of that proposal. Bearing that in mind, Councillor Miller-Jones, please.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick one. On the horn testing, my understanding is that it's for that exact reason. It's that it's not just the horn they test, that you have to test the tyres, you know, that there's a bunch of regulations that, and I did look it up, but I can't tell you the name of what the regulation is, but it's a bunch of regulations that, you know, before you set off on a journey, test this, the daily walk around, thank you. Test this, test that, test the other, you know, it's the vehicle checks that you have to do to make sure that it is legal. Regardless, so it does concern me that we can't condition anything about hours of operation. I do agree with the vast majority of, you know, what the proposal is, that the walkable, you know, walkable neighbourhoods, being able to walk to your place of work, all great. I don't know that means that, you know, it follows that it's a great idea to have a distribution centre so close to people's homes. It is the 24-hour noise that concerns me, and on the basis that we wouldn't be able to condition anything about hours of operation, I very reluctantly think that I probably won't be able to support approval of this, just on that basis that I'm thinking about the impact on residents, and I don't want to be responsible for that. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller-Jones. Councillor Dicker, then Councillor London.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start at the beginning. I mean, this debate began with the speakers being very negative about the application, which is their absolute right. And then we had speakers regarding the positives of it. Charlotte then comes in and bashes all the negatives away, explains about this condition that really isn't really appropriate for the application. So that's all good balanced debate, which is actually what I'm enjoying today. As many of you know, I've been away on holiday for quite a while, and while I was on holiday on a trip, I actually met someone who's moving in to Hatchfield Farm, and I actually thought, well, I know a lot about the application because obviously I date back to the Forest Eve days when it all kicked off about it. And I said about how much do you know about the application, everything else like that, and what they want to put on there and things. And she wasn't bothered. And she was very happy with being able to get a place in Newmarket and was aware of what else they want to put on there and possibly school and all these things. And that was good to hear. And it's just quite amazing because when you go on holiday and you see people or you meet people who live in the same sort of area and that, it's got bits in common and things. But that was good. Now, because I date back so far, I understand that the concern of people's houses and things. But many years ago, Charlotte may remember, we decided at Forest Eve to stick a distribution centre in the middle of Red Lodge. And it was okay then for being near people's houses. And I hear many times that we can't do things in Newmarket, but who cares about Red Lodge? And often we hear that, and often over the years, and it's always been quite upsetting me that Newmarket seems to want to have some extra help, but Red Lodge has always been the dumping ground of what people don't want elsewhere, but they get it. Now, I know, obviously, my wife is the ward member there, but I've been involved there for a long time as well. And after the initial kerfuffle about having the lorries and everything around Red Lodge, I never get a single complaint. It is actually the distribution centre right by the second school that was built in Red Lodge, and we don't get any issues. Certainly nothing that gets reported back to myself or Dawn. So I think nobody wants to admit to have it or wanting to say, yes, we want it there and everything. But there are places where these things have to go. And if you want one thing, then you get another. So I will be voting for this application, and we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dicker. Councillor London, is this going to add to the debate, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So, obviously, I made my proposal before Laura Miller-Jones spoke. I've just checked on the DVLA website for HGV daily walk-around checks, and yes, it does require you to test that the horn works. So that is a legal requirement. I note that the parts of the site, if you were to test your horn, it would echo over into the housing areas. The part of the site at the back where the goods yard, it is somewhat shielded. I'm just wondering if that doesn't seem like it would be a particularly onerous condition to just restrict the horn to the goods yard at the back, just so that if lorries decided they were going to test their horn as they were driving out down the side road where that sound would echo out, we have some kind of a legal comeback at that point. Is that something we can do? And if so, I'm going to propose it.
Okay. Just before we do that, Peter just gave me a nudge. He wants to comment, don't you? Yeah.
I'll just come back and then I'll pass over to Charlotte. So forgive me. When I first heard what you were saying about the horn, I thought it was as they were, the lorry drivers were moving and exiting the site. Now I understand what you're saying is it's part of their daily sort of checks before they leave, which I'll pass over to Charlotte. And I think that answer will flow nicely into answering Councillor London.
I mean, I think we looked at it briefly before, but I think if there is a set walk-around check that has to be done, it will be done in the service yard to the rear when drivers are getting to their vehicle, checking their vehicle, and that will be screened by that tree belt and be adjacent to the noise from the A14, which does run 24 hours. We could condition hours of use, but we didn't consider that to be necessary, and we didn't have that request from Public Health and Housing. We didn't have that concern from them. Similarly, we didn't feel it necessary to restrict use of the horn. I can't see a situation where a driver would do all their checks in their service yard, but then not sound their horn until they got out, especially if it's a sort of a checklist that they have to do before their vehicle is ready to leave the site. Thank you.
Councillor Ball, please.
It was really just to say, and if you could confirm what DVLC say, is that when the lorry leaves its base at night, or every place it goes to, if it delivers in the high street and stops and delivers, does it have to do it then? What's the difference? And I think we need to understand that before you put that condition on it, because it may be just when the lorry starts off at the beginning of the day, it has to do a check. I can't see a lorry that's doing multiple deliveries having to do that check every time it moves on. Personally.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Holder, please.
No, just to give you a little bit of help, having worked for Green King, and they have a fairly large transport fleet. Every morning, whenever they went out at the start of their day, they would check various things which by law they have to do: indicators, lights, tyres, horns, and probably other things besides. But they always had somebody else helping them. There was always another guy wandering around, a banksman, if you like, putting his thumb up into the mirrors to say, yeah, the back lights are working, the brake lights are working, all the sort of stuff. And it's once a day. Now, an awful lot of the vehicles at this new development won't be actually parked there. It won't be the start of that lorry driver's day. They'll be coming in from somewhere else to deliver stuff. They would have done their checks outside. There will be some people who run a fleet there of HGVs, and they will do that walk-round check. It's called a once-a-day walk-round, and as it's been said, it's a checklist. I don't think it's a condition that actually is needed, as Charlotte says.
Okay, well, look, as the proposer, you can propose adding a condition, but I don't think your seconder would actually accept that, from what I've been witnessing. Okay, right. There are no current requests. I'm now beginning to put the formal proposal to the committee, so no other comments or questions, please. So it was proposed by Councillor London and seconded by Councillor Bull to approve the application in line with the officer's recommendation. Could I please see a show of hands in favour of approval, please? And could I see those against, please? And are you against, Councillor? Okay, and two. Okay.
So that is 13 votes in favour and 2 votes against. The motion is carried and the application is approved.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you to our public speakers and to the committee. We will now have a comfort break. Right, it is now agenda item 6, which is the West Suffolk Operational Hub in Fornham St Martin. Amy, you can begin your presentation when you are ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, members. Good morning, I think we are, aren't we? Good morning, members. This application is for a hybrid planning application comprising 2 parts. Firstly, we have a full application, which is for a new car park and hard standing area, the change of use of an existing staff car park to provide storage and operational space, and the reconfiguration of a smaller second parking area. Secondly, there is an outline application with all matters reserved that seeks planning permission for the construction of 1 or more buildings to expand the existing municipal operational hub and associated storage areas, yards, landscaping and infrastructure. The application is referred to Planning Committee because the applicant and landowner is West Suffolk Council, and the officer recommendation is one of approval. Here is the location plan showing the red line that incorporates both the full and outline elements, and the existing operational hub is shown within the blue line. This plan identifies the full and outline areas. Pink is the outline application area and green is the full application area. Whilst it is a hybrid application, each element will have its own set of planning conditions, including time limits for implementation if the application is approved. Here is a site context plan showing an aerial view of the site. The existing site is shown with the blue star. The expansion site for part of the full area and outline application is indicated with the yellow star. The site is located in Fornham St Martin, and we've got Bury St Edmunds to the south and the east of the site. Also, we have a large area of commercial and industrial development to the south, which includes the British Sugar development and allocated employment land to the east and south of the British Sugar development. I've marked the expansion site for the British Sugar development with the black star to indicate that it will be adjacent to the existing West Operational Hub. The agricultural field to the east of the existing site, indicated with the yellow star, slopes downhill from Fornham Road by about 9 metres, and there is a gas pipeline across the site from east to southwest, which has been considered also in the proposals. The site is largely bounded by hedgerows, partial bunding, and some trees as well. This image shows the existing site. We have the waste transfer station to the southwest, the householder recycling centre to the north, the staff car park area in the centre, and the smaller visitor staff parking area directly in front of this building here. We have storage and truck parking to the east, and the office and vehicle maintenance and public realm storage to the south as well. The next few slides work through the existing and proposed plans for each of the 3 areas, which are the existing site within the full application, the site that also is incorporated in the full application to the east of the existing site in an agricultural field, and the full outline proposals also in the agricultural field to the east. Firstly then, this plan shows the existing site plan for the existing operational hub. You can see we have the staff car park here, which accommodates 125 parking spaces, and we have the smaller parking area to the south, which provides 8 parking spaces. And this plan shows the proposed site plan for the existing operational hub. We have 17 parking spaces being retained here, which will be used by Suffolk County Council contractors who manage the waste transfer station further to the west. And the remaining car park area will be used for storage and general operational uses. The changes to the smaller car park can also be seen. It's reconfigured to provide 9 parking spaces and a loading bay, and an increase from 3 to 7 spaces for disabled users. Just with regards to disabled spaces, the application is for a mixed use application, sui generis use, that doesn't neatly fit within the Suffolk guidance for parking. However, many uses within the guidance require 3 disabled bays for a car park of around 200 spaces or less, or 6% of total capacity, which would be 10 spaces in this instance. So it's difficult to apply the usual standards in relation to disabled parking spaces, but proportionally, the applicant is providing more as a result of these proposals. Now moving on to the second element of the proposals, which is the full application element within the agricultural field to the east. The size of the entire agricultural field is about 11 hectares. And as I mentioned previously, the topography is such that the land slopes downhill from Farnham Road to the southern boundary. This plan shows the proposed full application area within the agricultural field, and we have the proposed car park, which will accommodate 175 vehicles, including 32 electrical vehicle charging points and powered two-wheeler spaces and 16 cycle spaces. Also proposed within the main car park are 2 rows of PV canopies within the middle of the car park. We have the storage area to the north and attenuation basins both to the north and the south. This is a zoomed-in view of the parking area and the yard area to the north. The proposed PV canopies can be seen on this plan with the elevations showing the sections side, front, and sections in the middle. This also indicates the sloping topography of the site for the full application area and the proposed car park and storage area. From Farnham Road, the site slopes downhill by approximately 4 metres, and the land will be graded accordingly to accommodate both the storage area, which is on the right-hand side there, and the proposed parking area. This plan shows the proposed switch panel and substation buildings, which are at the entry point of the proposed car park and storage area. And the switch panel room is 3 by 4 metres with a ridge height of 3 metres. And the substation building is 2.8 metres by 2.8 metres with a ridge height of 2.5 metres. This plan shows the full area landscape master plan. You see we've got a proposed buffer area to the south, which will be rewilded with native seedlings and planted in strategic locations to fill in gaps to the existing screening. There will also be a hedge around the proposed car park here, and you can see we've got bunds, 2 metre high bunds to the eastern edge of the full application, along with an additional hedgerow as well. So the next 3 slides show indicative details for the outline area, which is the third element of the proposals. However, all details relating to the outline area will be considered at the reserve matters stage, so that's layout and access, landscaping, scale and appearance. The light pink shows the proposed main spy road, and the potential developable areas are shown in purple, and we have an additional drainage basin to the south as well. This plan also indicates the gas main and easements in relation to that. This plan indicatively shows potential maximum building heights, with the north part of the site being up to 10 metres and the southern part being up to 12 metres. But as I stated previously, obviously this is an outline application and the layout of any buildings will be assessed at the reserve matters stage. So this slide shows the landscape master plan for the outline application area, and obviously includes the full application area as well. The existing bund to the north will be relocated slightly further south and reprofiled, and will be planted with native hedgerow and plants and trees. And the proposed new bund along the remaining northern edge, so along there, will also be planted with trees and hedgerows. And the proposed buffer area to the south will be rewilded with native tree seedlings, again in strategic locations to augment the gaps in the existing screening. So we're going to look at some site photos now. This is a view of the existing site, which is there where I'm highlighting, looking to the southwest. We have this is the main access road, which will serve both the full application areas and the outline application areas. And we see the existing Bellmouth just to the left that provides access to that agricultural field. And this is a view from Farnham Road of the existing agricultural field. You can see the British sugar development, industrial development to the rear, and you can see the existing site there, as well as these are Hollow Road farm buildings on the left-hand side of this image. This is again another view of the agricultural field looking south. And this is the view of the agricultural field looking east. So the next set of slides will cover the scope of the applications, representations and consultee responses, material considerations, and the conclusion as well. Firstly then, as a reminder, the scope of the full application includes the car park and storage area in the field to the east, and changes to the existing car parks within the existing operational hub. However, for the outline element, all matters are reserved, and we're looking at the principle of expanding the existing operational hub in the field to the east with one or more storage buildings, storage areas, yards and associated infrastructure. And you see here, obviously I've listed, and Charlotte has already covered all the reserve matters that will be considered post-determination. In terms of representations, we've received no comments from the ward member. Farnham, St Martin and Great Barton Parish Councils have not commented on the proposals either, and we've had no neighbour representations. The next couple of slides shows the consultation responses. I won't go through all of them in detail, but we'll just sort of list through the consultees, and we've had no objections subject to conditions, although I will come on to Suffolk County Council Public's rights of way comments. So consultees include the Environment Team, Environment Agency, Health and Safety Executive, Cadent Gas in relation to the pipeline, Private Sector Housing and Environmental Health, Ecology, Natural England, and the Landscape Officer. We also have Anglian Water, the Energy and Sustainability Team, Suffolk County Council Public Rights of Way, and Local Highway Authority, National Highways, the Archaeological Service, Suffolk County Council, and Suffolk County Council Minerals and Waste. So the Public Rights of Way team requests a 6-metre bridleway buffer to the front of the site, noting that funds have been secured for this route under the Bury North East development, plus has requested bus stops. Bus stop is relocated, which is on Barton Hill, and associated drop curbs as well. I'll come on to their comments in the transport section. So other than that, we have no objections subject to conditions. So the committee report covered 10 material considerations. I'm proposed in this presentation, I will cover the first 4 because they were the more nuanced ones and had further discussions around them. The remaining 6, however, I won't cover in this report. They were considered more routinely and generally were mitigated or details were secured by routine conditions. So firstly, in relation to the principle of development, the existing site and the agricultural field to the east is reserved in the local plan under policy AP11 as land to serve the expansion of the operational hub. So we've got AP11A, and it's marked here, which relates to the existing site, and policy states that any future development on this land must be directly related to its current use. And we have AP11B, this is the agricultural field, saying that this is land reserved to meet any future expansion of the operational hub. So under AP11B, the expansion is considered essential to meet the requirements of better recycling and population growth. There may also be possible local government reform implications. With regards to the outline element, it's worth noting that the description of development of the existing site in the 2017 application, which hopefully gives an idea of what the outline proposals are proposing. So we have the 2017 planning permission was described as the creation of a municipal operational hub comprising waste transfer station, household waste recycling centre, fleet depot, including offices, public road maintenance depot, and associated infrastructure, including accesses, paths, internal roads, parking, and landscaping. Therefore, the expansion in relation to the outline proposals relates to this description, and accordingly the outline description is described as construction of one or more buildings to expand the existing municipal operational hub and associated storage areas, yards, landscaping and infrastructure. Also, as we know, the new NPPF came out a couple of weeks ago. I did provide a late paper in relation to this, and it was considered that the proposal complies with that. But just to highlight here as well, in relation to the principle of development, the NPPF policy S5 supports this proposal because it's a proposal relating to infrastructure and also is allocated as such in the local plan. So we've done the principle of development, now looking at the second material planning consideration, which is the impact on the character and appearance of the area. So again, looking at the 3 distinct areas within the red line. Firstly, the changes proposed within the existing operational hub, which include the repurposing of the majority of the main staff car park and reconfiguring the car park to the south. As you can see, the main car park is located within the operational core of the site between a storage and vehicle parking area and the household waste recycling centre. Consequently, its redevelopment for storage purposes would have a negligible effect on the character and appearance of the site or the wider area, and there will clearly be no significant impacts in relation to the reconfiguration of the smaller car park to the south. With regards to the full application area within the agricultural field to the east, in terms of siting, the proposed car park and yard area align well with existing development. So you can see the alignment here along this edge, which aligns with the Hollow Farm Road buildings to the south. And it also is closely related to the existing West Suffolk operational hub. Also, the drop in site levels and existing and proposed bunding helps to screen the development, particularly from the north, and the proposed landscaping, which includes trees and hedges and the landscape drainage to the south, will help to integrate the development into the surrounding landscape and reduce any visual and landscape character impacts. So in relation to this element, no significant adverse impacts are considered to arise. Now, with regards to the outline area, and as already highlighted, all matters relating to the detailed access, design, layout and appearance and scale and landscaping will be considered at the reserve matters stage. However, the submitted landscape and visual impact assessment has assessed the potential impacts of the development, including buildings up to 12 metres high, and concludes that there will be limited landscape impacts by years 6 to 15, noting the existing large-scale industrial and commercial development around the site and the landform of the site and level changes, as well as the existing vegetation and proposed landscaping. Whilst noting the requirements of the reserve matters, it is considered necessary in the interests of securing a cohesive, coordinated and legible design to require a site-wide development framework by planning condition in relation to the outline proposals. And the development framework will set out details of land uses, building zones, primary access routes, as well as design principles and existing and proposed site levels. The reserve matters will then be assessed against this overarching framework. Also recommended is a condition that requires an updated landscape and visual impact assessment to support future reserves matters applications to ensure that future proposals are consistent with the findings and considerations of the original LVIA. So the third material planning consideration that I'm discussing today relates to ecology and BNG. The local ecological impacts are all considered acceptable in relation to both elements of the proposal, subject to conditions. And also in relation into biodiversity net gain, with regards to the full application, BNG will provided and the standard at least 10% BNG will be provided on site in relation to the full application. In relation to the outline proposals, it is unknown at this stage what level of on-site or off-site BNG will be provided. A potential off-site compensation area with council ownership has been identified should additional biodiversity units be required, but at the moment it would be premature to secure that off-site provision now, as future design work may reduce or alter the BNG requirement. So as a solution to this and to provide the necessary flexibility in relation to this site, a Grampian-style condition has been proposed requiring sufficient biodiversity units and any necessary legal agreements to be secured before development of the outline area can commence. And as I briefly touched on, this approach would maintain flexibility for the future expansion of the allocated operational hub, whilst ensuring that BNG is delivered. So with regards to the final material consideration that I'm discussing, it relates to transport. In terms of traffic impacts, the existing access from Farnham Road will be utilised for both the full and outline proposals. The transport assessment has estimated trips to and from the site based on the activities of the existing operational hub. Based on this, junction modelling has been carried out in relation to the access point, the A134 roundabout and the junction at the bottom of Barton Hill, and it is concluded that all junctions are forecast to operate within capacity with no severe residual impacts anticipated. The transport assessment concludes that the proposals will not result in an unacceptable impact on highway safety. Both the Local Highway Authority and National Highways have reviewed the proposals and have no objection, subject to a condition to secure a travel plan. In relation to sustainable travel, and specifically, firstly, in relation to the full application, the existing site already benefits from off-site cycle and pedestrian connections, which were constructed in relation to the 2017 application. You can see within the access road here, we've got a 3-metre wide shared path, and that fronts Farnham Road down to the A134 and then allows a connection onto Barton Hill and then to Bury St Edmunds further to the west. So as part of the full application proposals, a crossing point is proposed. So there's a footway from the proposed car park and then a crossing point to the south that will then connect into the existing pedestrian cycle routes. So with regards to the outline element and sustainable travel, the map on the right-hand side hopefully shows the location of the site, which is indicated with the star, the existing site is, and then the expanded site is just to the right-hand side of that. The plan on the left shows proposed sustainable connection routes. So it's proposed to provide a 3-metre route, if you follow my cursor, to the east of the main access road. So it's indicated in sort of pink colours, and then to continue all the way to the opposite, the drift. So if I just go over to this right-hand side plan, the drift is indicated with the dash line and leads to Fornham Business Court. So we have the proposed 3-metre access road through there, and indicated on the plans is a crossing point to get to the bridleway on the opposite side of Fornham Road. Also proposed is a crossing point across the main access of the site, which will provide connectivity both from people travelling from the east and the west into the site and to the wider area. So with reference to the consultee comments from the Suffolk County Council Public Rights of Way team, the proposed plan indicates a 3-metre route from the drift entry point, which is indicated here, all the way along the front heading east along Fornham Road. So I've highlighted this route here with the blue arrows. So whilst this area has been indicatively shown on the plan, it will be delivered separately by others through a Section 106 agreement associated with the North East Bury development. That agreement secures a financial contribution towards the provision of a bridleway link along Fornham Road to connect the drift, so which I've just highlighted there, with bridleway BR6, which is to the east, and you can see that just indicated there. So during the course of the application, Suffolk County Council requested that a 6-metre buffer is provided rather than the 3 metres that is indicatively shown. However, for the purposes of this application, it's considered that the 3-metre indicative route is acceptable because it shows that a route can be achieved, also noting that the Active Travel Rural Design Guide indicates that the principle of a 3-metre bridleway is acceptable. The final alignment and specification of this route will be determined through the separate delivery process in the future and may include alternative routing options. So on that basis, officers are satisfied that the indicative plans demonstrate that a bridleway connection can be accommodated, noting that the detailed alignment and delivery will be secured through the separate future process. So to conclude, and in summary, we have a proposal for a full application for minor changes to the existing operational hub and a new staff car park and storage yard in the field to the east. We also have an outline application for the expansion of the existing municipal hub in the remaining part of the agricultural field to the east. Both the existing and extended site area are designated in the local plan for expansion of the hub. The proposal is considered necessary to facilitate the continued operation, growth and long-term resilience of the West Suffolk operational hub, supporting the efficient delivery of essential services across West Suffolk, and is indicated in this harm and benefits table. This element of the proposal and justification for the proposal is considered a substantial benefit. Also, in relation to benefits, the proposal would support existing and future employment. We have the economic benefits through the construction period, biodiversity enhancements, and enhance public right-of-way connectivity. In relation to harm, there will undoubtedly be some localised landscape and visual harm, particularly from sections of Fornham Road and nearby rights-of-way, and that is considered a limited harm. Given the substantial benefits of the scheme and limited harm arising, and designation in the local plan, the officer recommendation is one of approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Amy. We have one registered speaker, and that's Richard Sykes-Popham. You're the agent for the applicant, Richard, so you've got 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. The application before you is for the expansion of the West Suffolk Operational Hub, the home of waste, recycling and operational services that every household and business in West Suffolk relies on. There are 3 points I would ask you to keep foremost in your mind during your debate and when voting on the recommendation that's before you this morning. The first is that the scheme has been rigorously assessed by your officers. Their report confirms that the scheme complies with the development plan and that it is acceptable in all other respects. That conclusion was not reached lightly. It is the product of close and careful scrutiny. The second point is that the need for this development was anticipated more than 5 years ago. That is exactly why your local plan allocates the site for the expansion of the hub. The proposal sits squarely within the terms of that allocation. The plan-led system has done its job, and this application simply asks you to give the green light for the development. The third point is perhaps the most important of the 3, and it is this. The development proposed expands and supports critical infrastructure for West Suffolk and for Suffolk as a whole. It is not speculative development. Whatever changes may lie ahead, changes to how local government is organised, to policy or to politics, bins will still need collecting, recycling rates will still need to rise, and public spaces will still need tending. Our growing communities and businesses will always depend on these services. This development therefore delivers capacity that is essential regardless of what may happen in the future. It is development without which your communities and West Suffolk's economy cannot properly function. I thank you for your time. I commend this application to you, and I ask that you approve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Richard. Right, members. Silence on my screen. Councillor Glossop, please.
I recommend approval.
Thank you. Is that seconded, please? Several of you want to second it. I'm going to give Councillor Holder, who was just slightly ahead of you, Councillor London. Would you like to speak, Councillor Holder? Councillor Malmay-White, you would like to speak?
Chairman, just to say that I would support the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit along Fornham Road, and I hope that highways will accept that rather than going to the 50. Anyone who's used the hub or goes to the farm place on the left opposite side, I mean, the cars whip down that road. And with more traffic coming and going, I think it's essential that we push for that 40-mile-an-hour speed limit coming down towards the hub. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Malmay-White. Councillor Neil.
I'm supportive of it. I think it's a wonderful expansion and project. I'm just a bit concerned where the canopies are. This is irrelevant, I suppose, but just for future reference, we seem to miss the opportunity of water storage from runoff off of the canopies, and it's the same at the Mildenhall hub. There's no provision for that. You know, if that water could be retained and gravity fed, it would go a long way to keeping the foliage in top condition. So perhaps in future we can consider that. But other than that, fully in favour of the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Neil. Councillor Lynch, please.
Just for my curiosity, I'm sure there's a reason, but the yard area, I see, it wasn't quite situated as close to the rest of the development as it could be, and I was wondering what the reason for that was.
Thank you, Councillor Lynch. So I'm actually just going to go back to the officer. And if we get through the officer's responses and there's no further requests, then we'll go straight to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to quickly flick through the first couple of questions, which may have been more observations than queries, but absolutely, with regards to the traffic regulation order that's referred to in the committee report, there is an aspiration to pursue that to reduce the speed limit along Fornham Road. And it is understood that the intention is to proceed with that aspiration. And the Highway Authority did comment that they thought a 50-mile-an-hour limit might be more achievable, but the applicant is going to investigate the options. With regards to the canopies, the PV panels and the canopies in related water storage, it's not explicitly included here, which I know you alluded to, Councillor Neil, but your comments have a note. With regards to the positioning of the proposed yard area, this was so I'm not privy to why particularly this was chosen here, but it aligns nicely with the proposed car park and provides a boundary of the development in relation to the full application. The area here could come forward in relation to the outline proposals, but is not before us at this time in relation to the reserve matters. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to strike while the iron's hot then. No one's indicating they wish to speak, apart from Councillor Thorndyke. Councillor Thorndyke, please.
Someone's got to, haven't they? We can't just throw another West Suffolk one through, can we? We've got to talk about it. Yes, I remember the original application and the 3 times that came to committee for a decision. 3 times. Condition 28, reversing alarms. How enforceable is that to produce no audible alarms and all white noise on site? I ask that because several sites operating at the moment have a similar condition thrown in somewhere and it's not enforceable. You can't do a thing about it. Consequently, the subcontractors are all running on noisy alarms and the people that are running the site are running on white noise. It's frankly a waste of time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thorndyke. Amy.
Thank you. So yes, the condition 28 reads, all vehicles that are to be used on site that are fitted with reversing warning alarms are to be white noise alarms, which would be an enforceable condition and applies to the existing site. There have been no complaints in relation to the existing site that I'm aware of, and so that was attached to the original permission, and it felt and seemed appropriate that that would carry through to these the latest hybrid application.
Thank you, Amy. Councillor Thorndyke, did you want to respond to the...
Yeah, basically, it is not being done on existing sites. And when people have complained about it, they've been told it's not enforceable. And that's coming from our planning department, not from anybody else. Thank you.
I mean, only to say, if you want to have a chat about that afterwards and we can talk about a specific site, Councillor Thorndyke would be happy to look into that for you.
Councillor Ball, please.
In my ignorance, what are white noise alarms, please?
So they sort of limit the more blaring alarms, and I don't want to do an impression of one, but they sound like they're just more palatable to the ear and reduce the tone, the sort of the high pitched tone.
Thank you. I love that description, palatable. Thank you.
Right. Whilst the iron is still hot,
Yes.
could I put to the committee that it's been proposed to approve the application, and seconded by Councillor Holder, in line with the officer's recommendation. Could I see a show of hands in favour of approval, please?
That appears to be unanimous. Motion is carried and the application is approved.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you.